when you went for this mission,
It was like the jungle on a bed that was outside, and there was a big spider covering a big sack of eggs that was above my head.
for those children or for those people, so did you do anything?
I went there thinking I'm going there to help, to make a difference, to teach them, to do whatever I could to help.
Your job was not your dream, or
I couldn't carry on doing that. Like health-wise, your body will only withstand so much in terms of the stress.
what was the cultural shock which you got?
I expected to not enjoy living here.
Women can go and open account in Dubai, so why was it so difficult for you?
They needed my husband to be there to
Right.
open the account with me.
So now you don't look for the facts all the time,
Not all the time.
so you're becoming a believer.
I'm
So if you have to tell one biggest benefit of doing meditation, what that would be?
I think in this day and age now, everybody's living in high stress levels.
So do you maintain your energy level every day? And for how long can you do it?
It would be hard to maintain if you just did the meditation.
You're not getting a chance to do all that in UK.
No.
Or it's just about a new environment.
And then you move to Dubai, your issues go with you. So it's
Yeah.
not as simple as change your environment, because
This is a bigger difference as compared to living in the West and East or Middle East. So
yeah, it's kind of strange when you're used to the different cultures.
So what inspired you to pursue your career in law?
I'd like to say that I had a lifelong dream of becoming a lawyer, and ever since I was younger, but it's just not true. I had a previous career in freight forwarding, international freight, and I was working for Parcel Line at the time, and I just decided, I'd worked there for a couple of years, and I just decided I really wanted to do something that wasn't a job, that was a career, but I just didn't know what, I had no idea. I still didn't know from when I left school. So I went to the local university, which at the time was Leicester University. And I got a prospectus, and I looked at journalism, I looked at media, I looked at everything that was in the prospectus. And then I got a separate prospectus which was all about law, and I started to read it and I just couldn't put the prospectus down. It was all about people, it was about business, it was about law, and I found that really engaging. And I was working full-time at the time, and I couldn't afford to go and do a full-time course, so I needed to do the course part-time. And so I had to choose something that I could be motivated when I finished a full day at work to go home and then study. And so that's where I decided upon law, because I was captivated by the materials.
And how long did you practice law?
So I'm 8 years qualified now.
8 years.
8 years qualified.
Right.
So yeah, I practiced for that period of time. I did my training contract in a local authority, which was quite good because I was able to go to court and do advocacy. I appeared in quite a few of the newspapers to do with some environmental issues and things like that. So that was really good in terms of my training contract. It's quite challenging to get a training contract generally.
Right.
You'd have like thousands of applicants and then 6 places. And initially I had that belief of, they'll never choose me. They're never going to choose me over 1,000 applicants. Why would they choose me? There's people that are really sort of naturally intelligent, these sorts of reasons. But I decided that I would keep going until I got a training contract. So it did take me 6 years, but I didn't give up, and I applied and I applied, and I decided that every single rejection I got, I would get the feedback and I'd learn that skill. So if I got a feedback that said, okay, your presentation skills weren't quite up to scratch, I would learn about presentations, I would practice, I would do everything I could to brush up on presentations. And then the next one, it would be, there was an issue with teamwork. So then I've mastered presentations now. Now I need to work on my teamwork. So it went like this. And then over the 6 years, I obviously just got better and better at each of the areas. And then finally, I got offered a training contract.
Yeah, you have done so great. I mean, in a short period of time, even people, they look for having a career in law, and sometimes they keep trying for the whole life and they don't reach to this position the way you reached. However, you shifted, you changed your career from law, and you had been doing a lot of volunteer work as well. Your Commonwealth Human Rights in Ghana, that's what you were doing, the volunteer work.
A lot of people that did law would know if they needed to you had to get legal experience to get a training contract, but you can't get legal experience unless you've had legal experience. So it's this, you're kind of in a trap of not being able to get the job that you need. And some people would do that by knowing somebody or their family knows somebody. But I wasn't in that position. I didn't know anybody that had done law. I didn't know any families. I didn't know any solicitors. So I was struggling to get the legal experience. But I always believe that there's an alternative way around things. For wherever there's a problem, there's always a solution. You just need to kind of look for it. And so I did a bit of research and I found a organisation, it was called Teaching and Projects Abroad, and they did, I'm not sure it's called that anymore, but they did legal projects in Ghana, and it had been a lifelong dream of mine to go and help in a third world country with the orphans or with anything that they needed help with. So I thought this would be a really good experience to be able to get some legal experience, but also fulfil a dream of mine to be able to go and help in a country that's not as fortunate as ours. So I had a job at the time, which I quit my job, and I did some volunteering and fundraising, but most of that was to raise awareness of the issues of Ghana more than anything else. And the company encourages you to do that so that you can take some money with you to give to the local people. So I went there for 3 months. I lived with the local family. There were 2 families that I lived with. One of them didn't have running water, so you would have to go with a bucket and go and get your water from a big vat if it was chucking it down with rain, if it was really boiling hot sunshine. There's no choice. If you want water, you have to do that. And some days you would choose, do I brush my teeth or do I flush the toilet? And it was a really good experience to be able to appreciate the things that we have. Like in our country, we can just turn the shower on and you get hot water, and a lot of people would take that for granted. But even now, many, many years later, I still, every morning when I get under that hot shower, I appreciate that water running on my skin because it's hot water and I'm not trying to choose, do I brush my teeth or flush the toilet or have a shower? So that was a really good learning experience for me personally in terms of appreciating basic things, and I have carried that on. But also I think the biggest takeaway from that was I then for the final month went to stay in an orphanage, and the children had nothing. They would have like a pencil if they were lucky that they would share, or they would just literally play and sing together all day long from early morning to late at night. They shared dormitories, but they didn't have all the toys or they didn't have anything to play with. But they were the happiest children that I'd ever seen anywhere,
Wow.
which was really quite surprising because you imagine you're going to go to an orphanage, they're all going to be crying and sad, but they were so happy to have been given a shelter and some water and some food. And the food we couldn't eat it would have made us unwell. It was not great really what they were eating, but it was food.
Was it hard for you in the beginning to settle down, to stay, like you stayed there for 3 months? So how
it
was
was really hard. Like I lost a lot of weight because it was a restricted currency, so you could only take so much money in, and I didn't want to spend a lot of that money travelling around. I wanted to make sure I gave it to the local people, but we literally ate rice and chicken and salad. But after a while, I still can't eat a lot of rice now because we literally lived on that every day, and that's what they would eat, and I wanted to eat the way that they would eat, but it was a struggle because, you know, I suppose at home you would have everything that you need whenever you need it, whereas it wasn't quite the same there. You would have what your host mum gave to you. So that was a struggle, but it was a struggle in a good way because it teaches you about being grateful for everything that you have. Like, if I have any food now, like I'm grateful for any amount of food, whatever it is. But back then, I probably went there not with that same level of gratitude.
You know, I used to work with a Japanese corporate, and I remember the Japanese have got this culture. They never leave a single piece of rice, single grain of rice. They don't leave in the plate. They don't waste it. And once I said, you clean your plate like it's already washed, then this Japanese fellow, he said to me, you know what, if I waste one single grain of rice, I always feel a kind of responsibility, and I think about the growers, the rice growers, how much efforts they put into it. So to bring this to our plates, how can I waste it? So, you know, that's a beautiful mentality, which is, I think, from the school, from the childhood, they learn. But for example, what you did, you visited Ghana and you saw things, how people were starving and they were appreciating for little things. And it brought a big change in your life, as you mentioned. So is there anything which you would like to mention that some experience happened in your life that which was really different from what we see in our world, and sometimes we don't pay attention and we don't focus on those things? Did you come across something like that?
So there was an experience in the orphanage where I decided to take a few sweets into the orphanage. I quite often put like a spread of food on, so they would have different types of food rather than, because what they ate it looked a bit like porridge, but that was all that they had for all of their meals, and they were very grateful for it. And sometimes I would take a spread of food, but quickly realised it's actually not helping them because they're not used to that sort of food, so it would make them a little bit poorly if they had too much of that. But a particular incident that springs to mind is when I took some fruit pastels in, and one of the little girls that always used to come up every morning as soon as I'd arrive, she'd come up and be with big beaming smile. And I said, "Do you want a fruit pastel?" And she's got wide eyes looking up at me with a big smile, like she can't wait to have this fruit pastel.
Wow.
And obviously I've got a packet, and at home, ashamed to say that I would quite often just eat a whole packet of fruit pastels to myself. I wouldn't even think about it. But I gave her one fruit pastel, and I thought she'd be excited and eat it. But she started doing something with her teeth, and I was thinking, what's she doing with the fruit pastel? She was doing something with it. And then I went over, and what she'd done is she'd bit it into 8 pieces and shared it with all of her little friends. So they had a tiny little piece each of one fruit pastel, when I would normally just eat a whole packet. And I just thought, she could have just had that.
Wow.
None of her friends would have known, but she didn't do that. She had one thing, tiny thing, but she still shared it, even the tiniest little bit, with all of her friends. And we don't have that level of appreciation. I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to go there. But I went there thinking, I'm going there to help, to make a difference, to teach them, to do whatever I could to help. And actually what happened was that I came away feeling like they taught me more than I could ever have taught them.
Yeah, this is so beautiful.
It was like a humbling experience.
You felt that way, that you learned from them. While even sometimes we think that we are teaching children, but a lot of time we are learning from children.
Yes, yeah.
And especially the people, those who are not privileged. And sometimes we never realize the kind of the feelings they have, the generosity they have, the love and affection for others, peers. But when we talk about us living in the environment, when our children or we get everything, we don't really appreciate, and we fight for the little things. So this is so good experience you got.
Very good.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think after this experience, you must be feeling that it's worth for you, know how much pain you had to go through while for 3 months. And
definitely, and it wasn't really even pain compared to what people there are going through, but the difference is, and I think that it's a lesson for all of us, it is about mindset, because those orphans were not going through the pain that I thought they were going through. They were actually appreciating every little basic thing that they had in their life.
Yeah.
It was nothing compared to what other people experienced.
So what did you do after you came back from there? So for those children or for those people, so did you do anything, or just you wrote a report and just submitted, or did you do anything to bring a change in their lives?
So when we got back, so there's a couple of things that I did. So when I was there, all the volunteers would go travelling every single weekend. They would spend money looking at the different places. But after a short period of time, I would go with them. I think one time we went and stayed in the middle of, it was like the jungle, on a bed that was outside, and there was a big spider covering a big sack of eggs that was above my head. I didn't sleep for the whole night. I was literally looking at the spider's eggs thinking they're all going to fall on me in a minute. I didn't enjoy the travelling, and I thought, we're spending this money when these children need the money on travelling but not actually enjoying the experience. So I stopped travelling and basically just saved all the money and gave it to the orphanage so that they could get, because they needed a new roof and they needed quite a few supplies. So I just gifted all of the money that I saved to them so that they could get a new roof. And then when I got home, I kept in touch with the pastor for quite a number of years to be able to try and raise awareness. But it was difficult because of the communication. It wasn't always easy there. So we did lose touch eventually, yeah.
Yeah, so you did your part, of course, whatever you could do. But what do you think for a long-term solution to these problems, which some countries or some nations are underprivileged, they're going through this situation? Of course, you can do as much as you could. But at the same time, do you see any solution to these problems on a larger scale?
I think it's very difficult because we can all have these dreams of going and helping and making a difference. But there was a lot of political issues and there was a lot of corruption. And so as much as you can try and help, it's a larger problem. But there were organisations such as the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative that were working on that and trying to change things, but it does take time. But the good thing is that each of the volunteers that go there, if nobody went there, there would be no change. But over time, people keep going, people keep volunteering, people keep doing the different tasks with the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative, and then eventually change happens. But it's not overnight, and it's a long process.
No, 100% it's not overnight, but it has to be a long-term plan. And I'm sure this is more about the governments on a larger scale. They have to have a mega plan to bring the change in those countries. So when you came back, when you went for this mission for 3 months, so you had to quit your law job. So once you came back, what did you do? You resumed the same job, or?
So I didn't have a job in law at the time. Because I couldn't get a job because of the legal experience. I was working for a local authority doing, it was like a looked after children clerk in child protection. So that was the job that I quit to go and do the volunteer project. But when I came back then, I was able to do applications. I worked temporarily for some companies, and I did applications for training contracts, which was the process we talked about, where there would be thousands of applicants.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then because I'd had legal experience then, I'd had 2 months of really good legal experience because we got exposure to like the Attorney General, and we got to see the first female ever get sworn in. There was a lot of things that we were able to work on that helped me then, because I was able to say, yes, I've got legal experience. And then as a result of that, then I was able to get more interviews for my training contracts, and then ultimately I secured a training contract with the local authority.
And how long have you been in Dubai now? Now you're living in Dubai. So what?
So,
yeah, how long?
How long? So we came here in August last year. So we've not been here too long. I came with Noah. Noah's our 5-year-old son. And my husband and my eldest son had been here for a year before we got here. I stayed behind in the UK because I'd just got promoted to head of department in my law firm. I really liked the firm. They were really supportive, both personally and professionally. But also my dad was really sick at the time, and I just didn't want to go. But I also didn't want my husband to not fulfil one of his dreams. I think it's really important that we all fulfil our dreams and at least try and do the things that we want to, because time's short on the planet. And so he went ahead of us with my eldest, and then after a period of time, I was working, I was looking after Noah, and then I thought, what am I doing? I need to be with my family. And so I quit my job, and then we followed them over.
So you felt like you have given a bigger sacrifice by quitting your job and just come here because your husband wanted to fulfill his dream, and your job was not your dream, or you had to just sacrifice it for the family?
It didn't feel like a sacrifice because, not at all, no. Because the company that I work for, like I say, were so supportive. I couldn't have wished for a better company. They never put pressure on me for targets, things like that. They were supportive if I needed more resources. Anything that I needed, they would give me. So for working in a law firm, it's the best that I would be able to achieve, I believe. But you're still in the rat race. You're still having to be there at a certain time. You still have to leave at a certain time. I found myself not having any time for self-care or for things that were for me. I was either working or looking after my child or doing chores. And there was never any minutes. That's how it felt while I was there, because if I didn't do washing, Noah wouldn't have any clothes. If I didn't go to work, that would have consequences. So it wasn't like I could just drop one of those balls. I had to keep them all going, but there was never time to stop. And the weekends we were always really busy, trying to catch up on washing, things like that. So as much as I didn't want to leave law and the firm, I couldn't carry on. doing that. Like health-wise, your body will only withstand so much in terms of the stress. And I was living on my adrenaline for a long period of time.
Right.
And that's not good for anyone. And when you're in it, you think there's no way out of it. Like there's no choice. Like I have no choice. Like what else can I do? We have to work. It's got to the point, mostly in the UK, where a lot of people need 2 incomes in the family home to be able to pay the mortgage and the bills and everything else. So it wasn't like an option for me not to do that. So yeah, that's what happened. So that's why I don't feel like it was a sacrifice, because I knew that coming here, I would be taking a little bit of time out. So I'm not working as a lawyer at the moment. I'm classed
Why not?
I'm classed as a non-practicing lawyer, so I'm still on the role of solicitor. So I could, if I wanted to, go and get a job. But I understand here it's, and it was the same back home. I was still doing like hours after work, but it's long hours.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have a little bit of time out and just be able to kind of take stock a little bit, get healthy, make some different habits, change some habits. So I wanted to get fit, and I made a promise to myself that when I got here, I would get fit and healthy first, and I'm not to do anything until that's been achieved, because if I can be strong for myself, then I can be strong for everyone else, health-wise and everything really. So, and that's what I've been doing. So
before I get into your routine here in Dubai, I would like to ask you, what was the cultural shock which you got when you moved in here? Was that the first time for you when you moved here, or before you had been coming here in Dubai and you were quite familiar with the environment and the culture and the people, or it was really a big shock for you?
It was much less of a shock than I thought it would be. I expected to not enjoy living here. I know, I look back and think I can't imagine that now, but I'd travelled to Dubai many years before, and it was a time when there was only a few hotels on the beach. And I've travelled a lot all around the world, lots of different places, and it was my least favourite place to travel. I'm sorry to say that now, because living here is very different to when you travel here. And actually, after a very short time of being here, I'd say the first 3 weeks were hard, because just trying to do like admin things, like open a bank account, that's very tricky. I couldn't do that without my husband. And trying to get the medical insurance, trying to understand the differences, you know, that you at home we would just call a doctor. It's not that easy to do that anymore, but here it's very different. So trying to understand the admin side of it was very difficult. The cultural side, I love embracing different cultures and meeting different people. So I haven't found that hard. I've really enjoyed that side of it. I always try and chat with the taxi drivers and find out their life stories. And sometimes my son will say to me, "Mum, ask him if he's missing home," or a question on something, you know. So, so that side hasn't been so tricky.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when you say that it was hard for you to open a bank account, why was that hard for you? I think the women can go and open an account in Dubai. So why was it so difficult for you to open a bank account here?
It seemed like I couldn't do that on my own. Like they needed my husband, I think, because I'm not working.
Okay.
I think that's probably to do with it. They usually would want a sum of money to be going into that account every month, and I'm not working, so they needed my husband to be there to open the account with me. I'm not sure why that. I mean, a lot of people told us we wouldn't be able to do that. Like it's not possible to have your own account, but obviously that wasn't right, and we were able to open an account.
So it's good to hear that you have been learning from Dr. Joe. So what's the inspiration? From where did you get the inspiration to learn Dr. Joe's work, which is not so simple stuff? It is quite deeper. Mm-hmm. So is it your urge for the meditation or neuroscience or something deeper?
So when I first discovered Dr. Joe's work, it was I met with a life coach that was introduced to me by a friend. And at the time, I'd been having quite a lot of back pain. I'd had like a bulging disc, but it never sort of went away even when it was healed. And she asked me if I'd heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and I said I hadn't. And she said, "You must read this book. It's really good." And I was skeptical. The book was called "You Are the Placebo."
You're the placebo.
I'm sure you would have read it.
Yeah.
And I was a bit skeptical because the book, the concept of the book is that you have the power to heal yourself.
Correct.
But when you look at that on a deeper level, if we have a cut, it does heal itself. So why we struggle to accept these concepts when actually we can see every day that our body has the capacity to do that. So why hasn't it got the capacity to do it on a deeper level? Obviously, being a lawyer, I need facts and evidence and everything to be able to believe that something's possible.
Right.
And I think the difference with Joe Dispenza's work is that he tries to evidence the work in a scientific way. And there's a lot of the science behind it, the reason it works. There's a lot of things that they're doing to prove that the techniques work. So I think that helps my analytical brain as a lawyer to accept, because there are scientific facts that prove why it's possible. So it has changed my perception of things.
Yeah.
I've never been, my dad, when we were growing up, would always say, you don't necessarily have to go to church to be a good Christian, as long as you do good things for people, as long as you do nice things. I would say for most of my life, I didn't really believe in anything, like, at all. But then when I got Dr. Joe's work, I can now accept that there's something that keeps us alive. Our hearts are beating, like the world is like spinning. There's got to be some higher intelligence that makes that happen. And also there's now scientific evidence and like incorporated with the quantum physics side of it that suggests how and why some of these things can happen. And so that's why I can take it on board as I can. And the meditations as well over time. To start with, it's really hard to do those meditations. I didn't fully understand it. And then the more that you do it and the more that you practice, the better you get. And then you get a different experience.
True.
And then I started looking at other people's work as well, which was kind of complementary to Dr. Joe's, or it was in addition to, or, there's a whole raft of information that's out there now. And the more you learn, the more you think, well, I've had this experience and someone else now is explaining this experience. So it must be true, because it's there written by someone else. I'd never read that before, and then I had that experience. So, the more time that I've spent doing the work and the more people I've met, I've got more involved in it, basically.
So now you don't look for the facts all the time?
Not all the time. Sometimes I can just accept.
So you're becoming a believer?
I'm I'm becoming.
At a certain point, we all have to believe into something.
Yeah.
It's impossible, because if we start to live our life with only through our senses, the 5 senses, and everything has to be felt and touched, then there are lots of things which can be felt but cannot be touched, cannot be seen. Our intelligence is one of the things. It exists, but we cannot. So this is beautiful, and how nice, how good it is that a person who does not believe into anything, but after reading Dr. Joe's work, started to believe that yes, there is some higher source which you have to be connected with, and then you start to feel that change in yourself. And this is exactly, I think, happened with you as well. Yeah. When I started to work, I started to read his books, and definitely my first one was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Yeah. What an amazing work he has done in it. So I could really get a lot of interest towards neuroscience and quantum physics. And I started to break all those old beliefs that we can't change anymore. After 35, you can't change. No, you can change at any age. Yeah. So it's all up to us. So it's very, very interesting to understand that. Getting into meditation at times, because we haven't done in our lives before, but once you get into it, you start to realize that, yes, it does affect on us. So do you practice it on a daily basis? Or if you do on a daily basis, how long do you do it for?
I do practice on a daily basis, and I notice a big difference if I don't practice it on a daily basis. There are some meditations where Dr. Joe talks about being greater than your environment. So it's about trying to be able to do that when you're walking around and interacting with different people, because our old stories impact on how we interact with people sometimes. Yeah. And so I've been trying to practice doing that as when my eyes are open as well as when they're closed. But I do meditations every day, and it depends. I know he would often say that if you were too busy to do meditation, then you need to do it for longer.
Yeah,
so
true.
you need to make the time for it. And I have to make the time for it as well. There are times when I'll try and do a meditation and I go to different ones, but my mind will be like running away with me and I'm thinking all sorts of things like, oh, what's for dinner tomorrow, or anything other than getting down into the meditation. But he would refer to that as you need to settle the stallion down. That's what he would say about that. And it's about, yeah, okay, I can hear your thoughts. We're not getting up until we have got rid of all of our thoughts. And as he would say, you kind of just go into sort of a place where there's no people for that. But there are some times when I need to do that. So I might go to bed a bit earlier and try and do a meditation to kind of bring me back. And I think a lot of it is the ones that have helped me are to do with the heart and brain coherence. Yeah. And if you start to do that, you can actually feel the difference when you're in heart brain coherence compared to when you're in high levels of stress. And I think once you start to practice and you can see the benefits on how that feels and how good that feels to go through your day feeling peace and positive and excited, and to be able to seek gratitude in the basic things like the sun coming up or going down, or just the sound of the water or the look of the water, or somebody's smile. There's so many things that you can be grateful for everywhere. You can just be grateful. If you've got nothing to be grateful for, you think there's nothing, there is your heart's beating, you're alive. Like, True. Think about that. There's always something to be grateful for. And the more that you do that and the better you feel, then you can then meet people. I was in a taxi with someone the other day and he said, you've really rejuvenated my energy today. I never said to him, I'm feeling really positive, I've got loads of energy, I'm going to share this with you. I never had that conversation with him. But afterwards he said to me, you've really rejuvenated my energy, I feel really positive. And I said, that's great, you go share that with someone. Yeah. So we feel better in ourselves once we do it. We're more relaxed, we feel sort of centered and grounded. And then when we're in that state, then we can then help other people to feel like that. Yeah. And I've been reaching out to people that do similar things. And that helps as well, because we can kind of support each other to having that feeling and passing it on to others.
So if you have to tell one biggest benefit of doing meditation, what that would be?
I think in this day and age now, everybody's living in high stress levels, and it's, there's so much information out there that shows that high stress levels, your thoughts, it all affects your body. It can all make you unwell. And so it's so important to try and prioritise your own well-being. And the meditation helps to do that.
Beautiful. This is so nice. Like many people, they don't realize the benefits of meditation. Basically, once you get into it, of course, as you mentioned, it's a good stress reliever because you slow down your brain waves from high beta brain waves to alpha, and then theta, and then delta. So as more and more we start to learn about the benefits of meditation, you feel like, why not everybody is doing it? And why I did not start doing it before? So yeah, definitely. So it's a big change. And you have a different vibration. You have got a different energy levels, which you can feel yourself. And I'm sure, as you mentioned, that taxi driver, even without saying anything, but he felt that. So that's what we talk about, the vibes people, they feel when somebody enters in the room, and you can feel different vibes. So this is all the energies which we are emitting. And once you start to focus on it, you really start to have more control, if not control, but at least you start to keep raising your energy level. Yeah. So do you maintain your energy level every day? And for how long can you do it until somebody bothers you?
Well, firstly, I'm embarrassed to say in a way that for many years, I thought that the energy, when people talked about the energy, I didn't really understand what they were saying. It was always a bit uncomfortable when someone starts talking about energies. And I don't know why, because it's been scientifically proven for such a long time that we're all made up of energy. Yeah. So why that's a concept that I couldn't grasp as something to be real. But now experiencing it on a daily basis, you can feel that it's true. I can tell when I've got a day when, so to answer your question, no, I don't keep my high energies all of the time. But I try because it makes me feel really good when I do. And I know that it makes other people feel really good when I do. You can kind of bring your positive energy to other people, then they feel positive. But it's not easy. It's a daily practice. But it started off where it would be like I did it for a few hours where I felt high energy. I was excited. I'd look at the sky and see like the sunset and just feel so happy that I was able to do that, and just seeing joy in so many things. But I would do it for an hour maybe, and I felt that was such an achievement. I did a whole hour of that. Like, imagine like living your life in a state of joy and peace and happiness, and just feeling so excited about everything that you see. Like, imagine what a life would be like that. And then I couldn't at the time. I thought, well, I did an hour, that's great. I didn't know that I could get more than that. And then I've been able to do a couple of weeks at a time now, where every day I wake up feeling energized. I go to the gym, I'm happy, I'm excited. I'm thinking, what's next for me? Like, shall I, I'm just enjoying this time, but shall I do this or shall I do something else? But the choice is mine, and it's so nice to be able to see the value and in being able to take the time.
It does actually, but I would like to know deeper, like in a way, like, because when you mentioned about, oh yes, you get energy when you look at the sunsets and sunrise and waterfall, or just look at the sea and hear the sound of the waves and the birds. So this all brings up your energy level, and once, even if you start to get energy with these things, these like maybe sometimes we call it, these are like, so what, minor things, but they become so major in your life, because whenever you want to come to that high energy level, you just go and you start to see some nature and you start to enjoy that.
It's not just about that. I think it's about a combination of things. So that helps to keep your energy levels throughout the day. So it would start off for me from doing some exercise, doing the meditation. So that brings me into the brain-heart coherence. So I'm in a good place then. And throughout the course of the day, you might encounter things that might then make you feel your old past feelings. Like, you might feel frustrated that a car tried to cut you up. Now, instead of feeling anger or frustration, I might think, maybe that's happened to slow me down a bit, because maybe I'm not supposed to be going to the next place. There might be a reason, basically, is what I'm saying for that. And the things of being able to look into the sky, and that's a way of connecting to the environment and to nature, because that's another way of grounding you. If I go to the beach, you can get, there's a whole concept of grounding, which is to do with, walking on nature and walking on the beach with your bare feet and things like that, just connecting with the natural resources of the planet, and that helps me to keep it maintained throughout the course of the day. And also watching your thoughts, like we've got our negative patterns from before, and just being aware of them and changing the narrative about that. So it's not about just, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to think positively. This is not what we're talking about here. It's not like, oh, let's just think positive. It's about being aware of your thoughts that will give negative chatter that might not actually always be correct. And it's just being able to reframe that and think of it in a different way and change your words as well. Like, it makes a difference what we think, what we say, how we feel. It all impacts on everything. So it isn't just about, as much as I use the environment as a way to connect throughout the course of the day, it isn't just about that. It's about a whole combination of things. And I think it would be hard to maintain if you just did the meditation. It would be hard throughout the course of the day. But the more that we practice, the longer. Like I say, I started off with an hour, and now I'm on to a couple of weeks. And then, as you know, this week I've had a few days where it's been tricky to stay up on that higher vibration. But when you're there, it feels good, and it feels good to people around you as well.
Do you believe that once you moved to Dubai, you found different nationalities, people from different background, different belief system, different cultures, that you could really explore yourself, and you could explore others' lives as well, and you could find more like-minded people here? And because you took some time off from your career, which was normally you were doing, so you were not getting a chance to do all that in UK.
No.
Or it's just about a new environment which you created around yourself. It is bringing a change in your life. So what is the main reason behind it.
It is, but you have to be careful with that a little bit, because if you don't work on your issues and you're in the UK and then you move to Dubai, your issues go with you. So it's not as simple as change your environment, because if you're not constantly working on yourself, then wherever you go, those issues will be there. But coming here and being able to immerse in different cultures, I've just really enjoyed that, because I found out so much about different people. I mean, we've had conversations before about your past and my past as well, and it's sometimes very different how we might have been brought up, but it's so nice here. It just doesn't matter. There's no barrier between anything. We've got similar interests. You can talk about things, and it's different. There's people from every different country here, and it's so nice to learn about each other and to interact with each other and find out even what foods people eat, and what their routines are, what their beliefs are, and I really do like that.
Does it ever put you off by seeing that this is a lot different culture from back home, and what the things which you used to do there can't do it here anymore? You find that kind of a feeling sometimes?
What sort of things do you mean?
For example, maybe more liberty every evening, not every evening, but maybe just going to the pubs or the bars and all was common, or serving alcohol on every dinner. But once we have dinner, so we don't have that alcohol on the table. So this is different. Or for example, this is more of a Muslim environment. So people, they don't straight away hug, or sometimes they don't shake hands. Sometimes people, they do. Yeah. So this is a bigger difference as compared to living in the West and East or Middle East. So does it put you off sometimes? Or?
No, I mean, the alcohol issue doesn't. I like the fact that it's not so easily accessible here. You don't have the same situation where if there's places that you could go back home, that if everyone had been in an area, it would be quite rowdy. And I think there is a scene like that here. I've not actually seen it or experienced it yet. But it's good that there isn't that here, and it's not so easily accessible, I think. It doesn't bother me. It's nice. It's nice to be able to go out and just see people. It doesn't really matter. But he deals with that a little bit, and he's saying about a culture of sort of drinking alcohol, but a lot of people that are drinking it excessively, there's usually a reason behind that, and it's about getting to the root of those issues, really. So that's something that I've liked about being here, that's not something, at home I would have, and I think this is true of a lot of professionals. You would get home, you'd have had a really hard day, you can't wind down. I tried to do the meditations, but settle the stallion down wasn't working, and you would open a bottle of wine. It would be easy to just drink a bottle of wine. Not, I wouldn't do that here. I just don't need to. I don't need to rely on something else. I've got the skills within me to be able to. I'm not trying to avoid anything. I'm not trying to minimize stress. I've got ways to do it that doesn't include that. So it's just not a part of my life here. We do still have drinks on the weekend. I'm not saying that we never do, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's not like how it was at home.
But you don't feel odd, and you don't feel left out.
No, it's much better. Yeah. So that's that. And it's kind of strange when you meet people that you know, and it's trying to get used to the different cultures in terms of that. Like you say, we would see people that some people you would give a big hug to, and then other people you wouldn't. It's just getting to know the different cultures as to what's appropriate. Yeah. And do you know what? People are so friendly. Just ask. You can just, funnily enough, you can just ask a question. And I feel at home it's not so easy to ask questions. Yeah. I would feel sometimes uncomfortable at home if I was to say to somebody, "Where are you from?" Whereas here, you can just ask anybody, "Where are you from? Where's your family? What do you?" Yeah. It's really open. Everyone wants you to ask. They're happy if you inquire about their background, their family, anything like that. Any questions, I found people are really happy to share, and I like that. It's a real nice openness.
Do you see at some point of time you're going to be even as busier as you were back home by doing your own thing, that you would again come to the same trap of not having time for yourself?
It's a good question, and I think it's one of the reasons why I'm not rushing to get back, because I need to make sure I don't. It's so important not to live like that. Our bodies weren't designed for that. There's something you said to me this morning actually that was really good. I hope you don't mind me sharing. I can always cut it out if not. You said to me that you were tired this morning and so you went back to bed.
Yeah.
And you got the sleep that you needed. So important, so key, and yet back home there's just no way you could ever do that, like, and you're so much more productive if you do. If you're just tired and your eyes are stinging, you just can't perform in the same way.
True.
But that's just not something that's a possibility at home, like you just couldn't. So I think that's really important. I've gone off on a tangent, haven't I? Sorry about that.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to leave things in the flow. Let the life move on the way it is moving. Do not try to force much.
Yeah.
And sometimes we try to force things, try to bring the result the way we like. Then the stress starts to build.
Yeah.
And it's okay. We are not perfect. We try to make the things the best we can. It's not always the same case.
No.
And we should try to find enjoyment. We should try to find that joy, the feeling, fulfillment feeling in the things what we are doing.
Yeah.
And if we start to lose that, which is the core of doing anything, then it's just a routine things.
Yeah.
We are doing for the sake of doing. We are not really enjoying it. And I can tell you, like, for me, it's working 7 days now, I would say. But working 7 days does not mean that it's 24/7. You know, so you find your time to relax, to chill, to give rest to your own body and your mind. But at the same time, even you're working like for longer hours, but you're still, because you're enjoying it, so you're not tired. So, for example, conducting this podcast, it requires a lot of arrangement and the time and the people arrangement and appointments and preparation, lots of things, many hours. Then running your own business, it requires lots of things. Keep talking with the suppliers, with your partners, your buyers, in the market. And at the same time, you spend time with your learning and spend time for delivering the lectures or the seminars. So then you do everything because you're clear with the purpose, why you are doing it. And you don't get tired.
Yeah.
But until your body asks that, no, you are actually tired, you feel it, then give time to the body, then go rest if you can.
Yeah.
This is exactly happened with me in the morning. So late night I was up and I was just posting things because my social media person was absent and I knew my podcast was going to be published today. And I had to take charge of the things to do it, even though tired for today's podcast. But yeah, so we have to live the life with the positivity, with the energies, and not to let it just suck our energy. I mean, this is how it doesn't work. This is how I see life.
Yeah.
So what's your say on it?
Yeah, it's the same. And it's about finding that thing for me in terms of, you said about the podcast and the business. You don't really see those as work because you enjoy them. And it's about that. I don't want to rush into anything that requires me to just get back into being stressed all the time, because I realise how that's not good for you and how it can block some of the things that we're able to experience. And so I have to find out what that is. I mean, I would like to do something myself, but it has to be something with purpose. It can't just be, I need to set up a business. The obvious thing would be, I'll set up a law firm. Here, you need to have worked in a local firm. But actually now, once you start to really discover who you are and what the things are that you like to do, I do enjoy doing law, but like I said earlier, that wouldn't be the answer for me now. It's very different to what I thought it was. If you'd have asked me in the UK, what would your idea be? Like, I would think, well, I want to be able to manage my own time, and if I feel like I want an appointment at 10 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock, that I can do that. But it's very different now. It's not about doing law, even though I miss doing the legal side. I feel like I need something with more purpose. But like you said, I don't want to get into that where I just end up busying myself into something and then get stuck in the same. It's going to be a mindful activity to make sure I don't do that. But at the same time, you don't do a day's work if you're doing something you enjoy, like you say. So it's about finding the right thing. where to focus my energy and time.
So are you still in search of the bigger purpose of your life?
I think so, yeah.
I think so.
I'm not quite there yet.
But are
it's
you
coming.
moving that direction?
Definitely, yeah. I feel like I've cleared, like I say, when you're living in stress, you haven't got the openness to be able to think about what's next. Whereas now, my body's getting healthy, I'm getting fitter, I'm stronger, I'm going to the gym, I've got way more energy, a lot more positivity. I'm getting to the point where I'll be able to then take on something. Some things I'll have to let go of, and I'll take on some other things. So I will get there. I do believe it will just come to me at the right time that it's supposed to come to me, and I'll know what it is when it arrives. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying being able to pick Noah up from school at 1 o'clock. And quite often we'll say, like, normally if I was in the UK, I would have been in work for another 4 or 5 hours, but we get like every afternoon together. Sometimes it's tiring, but mostly he really enjoys that, and he's only going to be little once. So I have to remember that, really, that he's only that age once. So I don't want to get into a trap of doing long hours and not being there to put him to bed and things like that. It's tempting. You see lots of people here, all the glamour and everything. It's tempting sometimes to think, if I just went and did law, it could be the answer to everything, but it isn't. You've got to be true to yourself, and that's what I'm being careful of.
Yeah, but once you start to see things from a different angle, a bird eye view, then you see yourself, and then you make better decisions rather than just being the part of the environment, and then sometimes you can't really see yourself, what you are doing. So even it is tempting, but now even it's tempting, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Or I want to be what I'm doing right now, because I can see things what maybe they're not seeing yet.
Yeah.
But they will be saying once they start to see. This is being more conscious of yourself, or living more conscious life, I would say. So what message would you like to give to the audience, the youth, the youngsters, or the growth mindset people, those who are watching this podcast?
I think it has to be like, follow your dreams and follow your intuition. Like, you'll know deep down if you're in a job that you're going to every single day and you get up in the morning and you don't want to go and you hate it, don't stay. Life's too short. Find something that you love. Do something that you want to do. I'm not saying be irresponsible. I've made some irresponsible choices sometimes, but they've all worked out. But I just think life's for living. Like, just go and live your life and do everything that you want to do, because you don't know what's next. You don't know how long you've got. Like, just go and live.
Yeah. So when you see that people are still struggling to find their gift, what gift they have got in them, and still they don't know what my actual dream is. So as you said, you're also in search of it.
I'm still in search of that, but I think you are, and I've said this before, you are only one decision away or two from a completely different life. We could have decided not to leave the UK, then I wouldn't be in this position now. I wouldn't have been able to have this period of time. And it's not always about, you might think, oh yeah, well, it's okay for this person because they were able to. Sometimes, it's not always possible to do certain things. But there are ways around things, like I've said previously. So you're one decision away. You can make reasons why you can't do something, but it's possible to do anything that you want to do, anything at all. And so you just need to decide to do it and go through the fear. There's also an element of risk, but people fail, don't they? You need to fail and get back up and try again. There's always risk, but don't stay in a life that you're not happy in.
Yeah, that's true. So it's not always like you have to move from one country to another country to find that peace in you.
No, and some people love like a 9 to 5. Like I said, the firm I worked at were amazing.
Yeah.
It wasn't at all about the firm. It's just about me feeling like I would like more sort of flexibility for myself. Yeah. But some people would have the same job every day for the rest of their lives, and that suits them. They like the security. They like the comfort of it. They don't want to do anything else. For those people, that's absolutely fine because they're happy, and as long as they're truly happy and not thinking, I've got to do this to provide for my family, and it's got to match with who you really are. But if it doesn't, then that's when there's an issue. But for the ones that are happy doing that, then that's absolutely fine. You're happy doing it, so don't change anything if it suits you. Yeah. But it's just not for everybody.
Yeah, not for everybody, for sure. That's why most of the people they are living the same kind of a life. Maybe 97% people, they are like similar, if not the same sort of a life. But it's only about the minor, the 3% of the world population probably. They're challenging themselves. They don't want to live a mediocre life. They want to come out of their comfort zone and they want to do something bigger.
Yeah.
They chase their dreams. So it's all up to an individual.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? If that is your dream, to just live a stable, simple, straight, linear life, that's okay for you. But if you are more adventurous and you want to do something, take big challenge, considering that you have got only one life.
Yeah.
And then go for the risk, take different things, look at the world from different perspective. And that's all about our exploration of life. And that's what we do in our program, in this podcast.
Yeah.
We explore the lives.
What is the meaning of Explore Hayat? Please tell us.
Okay, so let me tell you, explore Hayat. Hayat means life. And explore means explore, which is, my name is Kashif, which is Arabic name. And the meaning of Kashif is explorer or discoverer. So I made this name Explore Hayat, taking my Kashif from explore from Kashif, and Hayat is life. So exploring the life of my guest, so that from your experiences or from the knowledge what you gain and the experiences you got in your life, so the viewers can learn something and then they can bring some betterment in their lives. So that is about Explore Hayat. Hayat is life.
Brilliant.
So you like the idea?
I love the idea. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So now you know what is the meaning of Hayat.
Yeah.
Hayat means?
Hayat means life.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being in Explore Hayat. It was a great pleasure for me to host you today.
Thank you.